our first segment for today, and our conversation is with representatives of the Social Security Board. We have with us Chandra Cansino, General Manager of Corporate Customer Relations Services, and we have Mariano Lino, who is the Acting Manager of the National Centralized Operations. And this morning, we are talking about retirement benefits from Social Security. Good morning, and thank you for being here.
Good morning. Good morning, and thanks for having us.
Now, this is an interesting one because we don't normally think about retirement or pension until we're about to need it, right?
That's right.
That's how it usually works. But we're getting a head start on the conversation so people can really understand what they may potentially be due and what they need to do to ensure that they're up to mark, right? Let's start there. Just tell us about the overall pension scheme from Social Security.
Okay, well, for Social Security Board, Social Security, we highly value our pensioners. It's the portion of the long-term branch that we pay out the most benefits. Our benefits payouts, our branches are divided into the long-term, the short-term, and the employment injury branch. And for our largest payout is for the long-term branch, of which the retirement benefit is the largest as well. And so, for example, in 2018, I think we paid out almost about 40 for retirement pension to about 8,000, a little over 8,000 recipients. And so it's a really large branch of Social Security. As you rightly said, the culture of retirement or the culture of discussing retirement is not very much done until the later years. When I was in my 20s, I never even thought about retiring. That was for old people. But in this day and age, we're trying to bring the culture a little bit to the younger people, so you can start to think about it before you get quote unquote old.
Yeah.
You said that last year, I guess that's the total, almost the total population of retirees or payouts was like 8,000. Yes. Is that about the average of what it is? Is that the total number of persons who?
Actually, it's increased every year because the population becomes older, so people start to retire more.
What's the relationship between the number of persons who actually got retirement benefits or payouts compared to the total population who probably got and didn't get?
Well, we have 104 approximately, because I think that's gone up a little bit, 104,000 insured persons that are insured with the Social Security Board. And of that population, well, the pensioners number a little over 8,000 at this time. The pension procedure is very specific, and so you have to apply, you have to qualify, and then we would pay you either a pension or a grant, because for retirement, you can either qualify for a retirement pension or a retirement grant. But before because I know you'll have a question, that will be a question. We just wanted, because again, the culture of Social Security contributors is that, I pay a lot of money into Social Security and I don't get back nothing. And it's very important for the contributors to understand that paying into Social Security is indeed an investment in your retirement, because every contribution that you make is calculated towards your retirement pension. And so it's not the short-term benefit like sickness and maternity, where you only use 13 weeks of your contributions to qualify. It is all of your contributions cumulatively that they are used to calculate. So the more you pay, the higher your pension will be.
So how does one qualify? What age and what are the specific requirements to be eligible to receive a pension?
Okay,
The
you want to take that one?
For pension, you need to be within the age of 60 to 64. That's called voluntary retirement. At 65, it's mandatory that you claim pension. Of
what
course,
happens if I'm still working after 65?
you can receive your pension and work. The minimum you can receive for retirement pension, it's $47 weekly. That's $188 every 4 weeks, and over $2,000 for the year. Paid 13 times for the year. The maximum you can get is $192. That's paid again every 4 weeks, and total about over $9,000. $9,000 for the year.
For the year.
Correct.
Sorry.
How much you'd have to be contributing to be on the high end of the scale And how much would your contributions or salary have to be for you to contribute?
Yes, it depends on the rate. The highest rate that you pay is $9.55 weekly, and for you to get the highest,
$9.55.
yes, $9.55 weekly
contribution.
as a contribution. And of course, that only includes your portion. You have the employer portion as well. All right, and then to get the highest, you need like 1,750 contributions total to get the highest end of the pension. That's equivalent to 35 years.
And that really answers, or is a part of the answer of my next question. What happens to people who have broken service? People who have maybe spent a couple of years not working, didn't contribute to Social Security?
Well, to qualify for a retirement benefit, a minimum qualification for a retirement pension is 500 contributions, which is equivalent to 10 years of work. So at some point during your lifetime, you would have had to work for a period of 10 years contributing. It doesn't have to be consecutive. It just has to be 500 total contributions for your entire life paying into Social Security. And that would qualify you for a minimum pension, not necessarily at the minimum rate, because it depends on how much you're contributing. And in order to qualify, so if you don't qualify for a pension and you've contributed less than 500 for the year, you know, you have some housewives who maybe get a little job during the year, go back home to work, etc. Anybody that has a total of 26 to 499 contributions for their entire life of Social Security will qualify for a retirement grant, which is a lump sum that is payable once. And so if you don't qualify for a pension, you qualify.
And what's the range for the grant?
26, which is
Contribution.
No, I mean,
26.
what's the payout
Payout.
in terms of the range? Yeah.
$800.
the minimum is 800 and the maximum
It's
really
varies.
varies. We have some really high retirement grants that we pay depending on how you have been paying. If you're somebody that has for example, a managerial position or a banking position and you're making more than $300 for the week, your grant will be at the higher portion.
So let me understand this. If I have 500 contributions, I qualify, then I get, let's say that I get the minimum of, I think it's how much a year?
80 something. Oh.
Over $2,000.
$2,000 a year. Every year until I pass away. But if I have 499 for that same amount, just one short, like right over there, I only get $800.
No. 800 is like
The minimum.
The minimum.
The minimum.
That's like if you only have 26
But
contributions total.
How can I compare the two in terms of that?
Again, it depends on
Calculation.
For the
Sure.
exact same rate,
depends. Well,
how much do I lose by not having that one single payment?
Well, you lose, quote unquote, a lot because it is always more beneficial and more, the payout for a pension is generally much higher than the payout for a grant because it is paid over a long period of time. And so here we come back to the conversation again that we encourage people to qualify or to ensure, try to qualify for a pension because it is better for you as a living Belizean to have a weekly benefit that you can collect. The grant might look good the moment that you get it. You see, I get $20,000, but that's it. You're not going to be getting that weekly benefit as time goes on. But if I could take one quick minute, because I just wanted to go back to what I had mentioned about persons concerned that they put in a lot into Social Security and they don't get out. There's a slide there that has that's kind of green that says a closer look at your retirement investment, and it just shows it's a quick view, and we might not be in a good forum to get into the details of it, but really what it shows is just for example, a quick example where you see 10 contribution years. That's the minimum, right?
So this is your 500 contributions.
Right.
That
That's
makes
the
you
minimum.
eligible. Yeah.
Correct. And so you pass all of this and you say to have qualified for the minimum, you, Chandra, paid in $4,959. That is what came out of my pocket to qualify for that pension. My employer would have paid in 13,312. Sorry, that's the total. Of that, I would have paid $4,959. My employer would have paid the difference. And within the 2 years, sorry, I know this is good from this angle.
10.
Okay. Within total amount paid in 10 years is 49,920. Within 2 years, I would have already collected the entire amount.
For 10 years.
That within 2 years, 10 years, I would have already collected 10 times what I put in, what I paid in. And so it's, like I said, it's a little bit hard to explain here, but the general, what I'm trying to explain is that once you qualify for your pension and you are receiving your pension, you will get back far more than you put into Social Security. And so we try to explain to insured persons that, yes, maybe all through your years at work you weren't sick, so you never collect no Social Security benefits per se, but at the time of retirement, which is the time when we need it the most, you will get back far more than you put into Social Security. And so we'll try to promote that paying the contribution is an investment in your retirement. Of course, you have the argument, well, suppose I don't get there,
Yes.
suppose I did, you know, and that is a reality. But we don't.
Suppose I want to retire at 40.
Go right ahead, Mariano. I wish I could do
Oh,
it.
pension.
But well, because of we are guided by the legislation. That is another quote unquote limitation. We have to abide by the act, and it is the act that dictates the calculation.
How do you answer the question which is nagging in my mind that you addressed, which is what happened if I don't reach there? What happened if, as I retire,
well,
I did?
You have other benefits that are
equivalent to the 20,000.
Yes, whatever
Yes,
you would have qualified for with.
if you have for a meal, if you have a wife, the wife could receive survivor's benefit based on your retirement.
Which would be exactly what I would have gotten.
No, it will be less, at least 60%,
It's
66%.
66.6.
Is it
66.6.
wife only? Common law also
Common law,
applies?
spouse, your spouse,
Yes. Okay.
your spouse will receive.
And can you
well,
name
for meal actually, because if the female die, well, I don't get unless I'm an invalid husband.
It's a little.
It's
biased.
different for me.
What?
It's different
Wait,
for me.
Use the proper word.
What?
Sexist.
It's a bit sexy.
So, no,
love
that
sexy
is
a bit.
not, that's crazy. So, if a female dies in the household, the male does not collect the benefits?
He does not. It's not automatic.
No, it's not.
He has to prove that he was dependent on the female
Correct.
for living, right?
Living,
So
yes,
she was the
living.
breadwinner?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Is that also a requirement necessary
But the children would
from
qualify.
the women?
No,
No,
when a woman
no.
dies,
Why
when
is
the man
this law
dies,
like this?
when the man dies, where the woman, the common law wife, the spouse, automatically qualifies for the survivor's pension.
The
How is
children,
this so?
The children get.
The
yes.
guys,
And please tell me
That's,
this
are
is
that's in the
gracious.
Constitution.
No, please.
In our act.
The
that's
guys
in
are
our act.
machismo and blind. And please tell me there's a move to actually level
Rectify
off.
this, yeah.
yes,
Show
yes.
it in
Well,
the next year.
we have next year. We have persons have expressed concerns about that portion of the legislation. But
Yeah.
as I said,
You are
it is
governed
not-
by the laws.
Right, we
yeah.
are governed by that, and
Correct.
so that is why we have to abide.
And I appreciate you taking the time to bring it out here because more people will know and be aware of it.
Yes, yes.
So Kevin was talking about what happens if you die before before you qualify. But I want to ask you a question. You know, we started with a very honest statement, and I'll be honest about it as well. I've never thought about this. Sometimes I hear my mom and their friends talking about it, but that's as far as it goes. But you always hear horror stories of people saying, well, you know, they didn't qualify, or they paid so much and they're getting so little, or people who said they were on the same pay scale, but they're getting different amounts. How do you explain the differences between what one person collects and the other, and also when someone doesn't qualify when they feel that they should have?
Again, it's based on the total number of contributions you contribute. Someone contributing 10 years, that's equivalent to 500 contributions, will get less than others that pays more contributions. As the table shows you, if you contribute that 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So it all depends. Even if you pay at the same rate, it depends. As you can see, the highest rate for this one was $320, right? Where you pay $9.55. That's the highest. Even so, someone having 15 years of contribution paying at the lower end of the rate can ask, would probably receive less than someone paying only 10 years at the higher rate.
Wow.
Because it all depends on the rate that you pay.
There's a formula.
Yes.
And
it's a
that is,
formula.
we had a little discussion yesterday about this, the same topic about the calculation of the pension benefit. And it's difficult to explain, I guess, in this forum. But we have no problem doing that explanation for anybody that wants to know. So if you have a question, even before your retirement, even if you young people would like to know how it's, you can feel free to visit any of our offices, and we actually have a little document, a little pamphlet that helps to explain, because it is a little bit complicating, and I understand most pension calculations are not straightforward simply because they take into consideration your entire history. But on that topic, what is extremely important is your work history and your contribution history.
Now, there's also a time limit. You have about 4 months to claim for your pension after you turn 65 or after you stop working.
13 weeks.
13 weeks.
after you turn 65, or between the ages of 60 and 64. It's the same 13 weeks. Once you reach the age and you know that you will not be working anymore voluntarily, you can claim your...
Between 60 and 64.
And if I miss that deadline?
Yeah, no exception.
We can go back as far as 26 weeks only.
The law allows us to pay retroactive up to 26 weeks.
Yes.
So don't be too late.
So even if I was sick, and let's say maybe I was out of the country and sick and going through...
Well, the law allows somebody to make a
exceptions?
claim on your behalf.
Oh, excellent.
And as long as the documentation is provided, and at the time of signing the documents, you are well enough.
It's important to know that one contribution can make a difference.
$4.99 and 100
Yes,
and
it could make
500,
a
yeah.
difference. Even if you have 1,000 contributions, or sorry, 1,000 contributions, and you have 999 contributions, that could make a difference because of the unit of 50.
Yes, every unit of 50 adds a percentage to your payment.
Yes.
You just added something else I don't know. Unit of 50?
That's in the whole calculation process. That's a little bit complicated, right? So when you pass the 500, you qualify.
Yeah.
But once you have a lot of us that have 1,500, 1,800, whatever the amount that we have been contributing all our lives, that every unit of 50 after 500 counts as an additional percentage to your payment. So what Mr. Mariano is trying to say is that every contribution is important. And what I was trying to say before that was the history. We encourage persons to go into the Social Security offices and check your contribution history.
Yes.
That's what I was... What do you have to prove when you get there? What do I have to bring? Do I have to have some kind of document saying, you know, look, I did pay, or what is the responsibility of the...
We have a standard form. You go to the office and that form is available, and it's also available online. In fact, all of our forms are now available online. You can fill in the information and you submit it to the Social Security office. And then
you list all the names of the employer that you work. That's has been a trouble for some people, that they don't remember the employers that they work.
Because they wait until the time of retirement. When it's like one of the managers was suggesting, make a habit of it, like on your birthday. You go and you take a little review, and this is going to be easier soon because we are now moving towards automating all of our systems, and so this information will soon be available to you online. So you'll be able to go online and check your contribution history, which will make it 100 times easier than the process that we are now using.
Why do we have to check our contribution history? Is there something that perhaps maybe my employer isn't paying what I thought they were paying?
Very
or
much so.
I mean, what is the issue here?
Because when we start to do the calculation for your pension, as Mr. Mariano says, every contribution counts. If you follow out your contribution history, because a lot of people don't go to Social Security to make sure that their employers are paying for them. And sadly, a lot of employers don't pay for their workers. And a lot of them take this money out of the employer's employee's salary and don't pay it to Social. So you might see it being deducted on your pay slip, but it's not going to us. And we can't control that at the point of retirement, but we definitely can address that if you are still employed by that employer, even after.
Isn't there a provision that deals with employers who do that one?
Yes.
And is there a monitoring mechanism which is built in? Because I don't. Honestly, I think that sometimes people don't take enough attention to their own business, but there's also the exigencies of life. You know, like for example, you said on your birthday. On my birthday, I probably will not be doing that.
I know,
but
I know, Kevin.
you know, these are things that you assume that your employer is following the law. And for you, for example, you're on a shift. Let's say you're working at the casino, you're on a shift. When I get off on these shifts, I really can't make it down to the office. And I'm so tired and stressed out. So one, is there any mechanism in the law to deal with employers? And is there, for example, like an annual, like you see like how you have income tax?
I was going to say income tax finds out if you don't pay. Why can't Social
you have a
Security?
TD4 form or...
Right. So we can. That is my point. Is that we can, as long as you. We cannot. We also have our compliance department, and they do inspections of employers on a regular basis.
Yes.
So that is one of the areas that we will find out from you if you have not been paying, because we do an assessment. But like everything else, people know how to get around the law, and so it's really a suggestion to avoid the delays that would come if your history is not complete at the time of retirement. So it's not maybe something that you will do yearly, but maybe when you change employers, go give a little, or sometimes you can give us a call. We also have our Facebook page. People message us, and that's a very, very active forum now.
Modern.
Yes, you know, we're moving on up like the Jeffersons. So we have all of these facilities now to provide the service. There are some things that we cannot give out as information on social media because it's hard to verify that you are the one asking. So we might have to guide you into the office for the meantime. But as I said, looking forward, we're going to have a new system in place where our services will be completely automated and available.
You can check it online.
So that's something to look forward to, but that won't be for another 18 months or so.
I've heard that advice before. When you change jobs, go check your contributions so you can make sure that's settled before you leave.
What's important is that pensioners between the age of 60 and 64, if you return to work, kindly inform Social Security Board so that we can suspend your pension, and we will reactivate when you stop work or when you reach the age of 65. Okay. So you cannot be receiving the pension.
You can't work and receive pension between 60 to 64.
Yes,
right.
But if you stop working at 60, you can receive your pension.
Yes.
Provided that you're not working.
Yes, correct.
Correct. And that happens often because the retirement age for the government workers is 55. So automatically at 60, if you have retired at 55, you qualify. Yeah. But there are the cases that of persons that work between 60 and 64. Marlene knows a few, and I know a few.
Even though you will be working,
but you shouldn't work.
You will not be paying contributions anymore. Your employer will pay $2.60 on your behalf.
Okay.
That only covers you for injury on the job cases.
Okay.
All right. So tell your employer not to pay contribution on your behalf.
Now, for many people, this is all they'll have to live off after they retire. And we have to be honest about the fact that $200 a month, if I'm on the lower scale, even $800, hardly sufficient for a person 65 or older. Doesn't cover groceries,
medication,
hardly covers electricity, and just basic needs. What are your thoughts on the efficiency and the effectiveness of our current pension plan for Belizeans?
That's a good question, and I will have to make sure that I separate Chandra, the worker, from Chandra, the employee. But speaking on behalf of Social Security, was never developed to be your retirement plan.
It's not a 401k.
It's not a 401k. It's a retirement benefit that you get from having paid into the program over the years of working. And it's directly related to the amount that you contribute. And that's why I tried to make a point of showing that slide that you put in a little, you won't get a lot. But what you put in, you will get far more than you did over the years as a retirement. It's all based on actuarial projections. We have to...
Actuarial?
Well, the actuary does a review of the Social Security Fund every year.
Sorry.
The actuary is the guy that looks at all the numbers and makes projections for down the line. So they participate in the calculation.
For the sustainability
right.
of the company.
And that's the word, because we are unable to pay out more based, if you want to get more, you will have to pay more. Because it's based on this, we have to ensure the sustainability of the fund so that everybody that pays in can get out in the future. Is it enough to live on for one person? No, I don't think it is. And so, you know, you have other persons who have opportunities to have other insurance plans. You have employers that offer other areas. And Chandra, the person, would suggest that you look into those options, knowing, because we're providing you with the information, we're telling you what your pension is going to be. So you know that it's not going to be a direct replacement of your salary. So, you know, plan for that. Can we raise the rates that we pay? Only if the legislation changes. Again, we are bound by the legislation in regards to these payments.
Do you think it should change?
I think it can change, but in order for us to pay more, we would have to collect more, and that is the area where we are paying what we can afford as a social security program. But in order for us to pay more, we would have to collect more, and that is where people are not necessarily willing to make that adjustment.
Is this one of those programs that you have to renew when you're on the pension? Like, I know there's one of these benefits that you have to actually go every year and basically tell Social Security, I'm alive still.
Yes, you have a
yes.
life debt certificate that you need to complete every 6 months, June and December.
And is
that process getting simpler?
That does, yeah.
Because we know that our country is not very helpful, even though your Social Security, very helpful to people who get less mobile. And at 65, 70, and subsequently, it gets a lot harder to move around.
Mm-hmm.
The procedure right now is still very manual.
Yes.
And this applies to all pensions, not only retirement. And really the reason is because I always tell my mom, because she complains about it all the time. I say, Ma, we have to know if you're alive. If we deposit money in your account, we can't just be depositing money. Because it's really that. It's a life certificate. It's to declare,
yes,
I'm alive and well,
alive.
please keep on giving me my Social Security contributions. Certainly we are looking at making that process a little bit easier. We have to balance now how they call the older persons, the millennials, no, or we the millennials. I don't even know what category.
Baby boomers.
But the baby boomers, I think some of them passed that. To balance, because there will be new accessibility with the automated services. But a lot of the older persons are resistant to that medium as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at making that process easier. Because we understand the limitations for older persons.
But when you're talking about the jump, it's like a simple thing like you have a compliance unit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's impractical, like not practicable, but actually having an outreach.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
A lot of these people who can't come out, they have dementia. Some of them are just
they just can't walk. Yeah,
they can't move. My grandmother just suffered a stroke, and we've been dealing with it from December, and she's just a completely different person. One day she's good, and then the other day she was completely gone.
But isn't there a process to facilitate when they can't sign themselves?
Not just signing,
Well,
it's just the entire process.
The process.
Yeah.
All of that is done in front of a justice of the peace.
Yeah.
So even if you cannot sign, you can maybe use a fingerprint. Yes, you can use that to declare that you are alive.
Yeah, but the presenting of yourself, I think that's what he's more talking about, having to physically go to present
I believe a
yourself.
justice of peace can go to your home.
Okay.
You don't have to present yourself.
So you can get a justice of peace.
It's just
to come
the
to
important thing
you.
is to
Yes.
and sign the certificate or get it signed or whatever you are able to.
Can I go back a little, please? Help me in terms of, I hear you're being torn between what the law is and what you definitely sound like your heart is saying you'd like to help people to do, and the two hats that you wear there. But can you go back and walk me through what the purpose of Social Security is? So that because if I know what the purpose is, then I know how we can move closer towards that. Because the law can be really, a bootstrap. Mm-hmm. But can you tell us what the purpose of Social Security is? What's the purpose, mission, whatever it is?
Well, the main purpose of Social Security in regards to contributors is to provide a social safety net when in times of need, and to provide a facility for a pension at the time of retirement. We also have the survivors' pensions and all of those pensions that you qualify for. But like I explained earlier, being a worker, as we are working persons are the ones that contribute to Social Security. So the benefits that accrue are for persons that have been working all their lives or that are working. The short-term benefits are the ones that you can get along the way: sickness, employment injury, maternity. And the long-term benefits are the ones that you would get after you have contributed all your life. Or in some cases, if the worker dies and I'm the survivor or the child. And so really the purpose is to provide this social safety net for workers. We also have some benefits for employers, but that has always been their contention that the majority of benefits, even though they pay a large amount, the majority of benefits is for the worker. So it's really that, to provide a social, and our responsibility as Social Security is to ensure the sustainability of the fund. And so we have to balance the two to ensure that these monies are there to pay for everybody, our children and our grandchildren.
Now, I wanted to press you a little bit there for the simple fact that when we do hear about Social Security, especially in the newscast, it's about where you're making your investments. And we know that we contribute this money and it goes into a fund and it's used to invest to grow more. I'm not going to ask you about which investments or what you think of them, but just, isn't it the hope that we make smart investments so that the fund can grow without people contributing more, but so that they can receive more? I give you money, I don't want to say bet, but to invest in, so that you can grow my money.
Right. Well, we are aware of all the legacy issues in regards to investments that Social Security has had to endure over the years. And we drag that along with us with like a heavy anchor on our ankles, because it's hard to, at the times that those things had happened, it was so, tumultuous that it's hard to let go of them. And you have the politicians and the contributors who don't allow you to let that go. And I can't blame them. That's the workers' money and they have every right to be concerned about it. However, we have done a lot to rectify that. There have been huge reforms in the investment, in the legislation in regards to investment that dictates that the procedures have to change. The investment committee has to make recommendations to the board. The board cannot make a decision not recommended by the investment committee. The board members are now held personally liable for decisions that they make in regard to investments. And then another big one is that on the investment committee sits the union representative and the chamber, or the business representative, because you have the Belize Business Bureau as well. What that means is that all investment decisions that are made have the representation of the unions and of the business community. And so if there are any questions, those should be yielded to their representatives, because they sit there and they are an integral part of those decisions. And so we have made a lot of changes in regards to going forward with investments. Yes, we would like to do better in regards to return on our investments, but we're also limited by how we make investments, because in order to make better investments, you have to make a higher risk. They have a higher risk, and the board does not necessarily want to take a higher risk to get a larger income. And we don't invest internationally. That's another option that the board is now looking at, to perhaps purchase shares and things in other. The law provides for that.
Can I just follow up? And please entertain me in terms of addressing probably the cynicism, just as a final follow-up to my next question, that the perception might be that there is an expectation that there's an inbreeding. Political entities won't leave a golden goose like that to any independent sort of mechanism. And there is this belief that probably that there is political interference in terms of the appointments. So like, okay, well, if I'm a NIP government, I'm going to make sure that NIP persons are on the board, are placed there, so that when I call over there and I say, listen, I want X amount of money to buy stocks for BTL or for this project, that I'm not going to have that sort of problem. How do you respond to those sort of cynicism?
Well, of course, I understand the cynicism. I've been a part of the cynicism in my past. But I see how it works. And I see the board, the composition of the board right now is, of course, you have government appointees, but there's also a strict balance in regards to the union representatives and the chamber representatives. And the investment transformation or the changes that have taken place in that part of the legislation are really, really significant, that it's extremely difficult. I don't want to say impossible, because nothing is impossible for any quote-unquote politician to get around that. And I can't see, I honestly cannot see how somebody can use political interference to just access the fund. There might be things that people can come up with outside of the law, but the way the law is and the way it is implemented and the way it is enforced at this time, I can't, not ironclad, no, nothing is ironclad. I won't say anymore.
I think we all believe that at this point. But I just want to go back, because there was something you said that I don't want to miss.
Okay.
You said not just people who qualify for pension based on their age, that there are other types of pensions as well. What other type of pensions did we miss?
You have invalidity pension and grant. You have survivors benefit for those people that die. The spouse, children, that, as we mentioned, can receive survivors benefit. Also, parents can also receive survivors benefit if the parent was solely dependent on that child. We have death benefit as well, and as she mentioned, we have short-term benefits, which is no penalty to your long-term benefit.
Yeah.
You know, as we're talking about that, there's a kind of word to talk about the disparity between a man and a woman in the survivor's benefit, which is it's at the very least it's discriminatory.
Yes.
At the very least.
I'd say it's antiquated. People just see it differently.
I guess it has to
Our
do a lot
laws
with
are
the
so
time.
antiquated,
Because I'll bring up a topic that's also very, very.
I hope you go there, because I want to talk about same-sex couples.
Yes, I was about to go
That's where I'm
there,
going. That's where
and
I'm
so
going.
I want I wanted to be the one to bring it first,
Manu,
because we are very, very aware of it.
Absolutely.
And it's been brought to our attention by some of the groups,
Yeah.
their concerns, and I agree 100% that we now have to look at that area of the legislation.
Absolutely.
But it is, again, we are bound by the definitions in the legislation. So Chandra, Dr. Colin Young, Mr. Singh can't get up and decide today we're going to allow payment for same-sex marriages,
Couples.
relationships, because they would qualify in the common law as well. There is a process that would have to take place to make those changes.
Somebody really needs to sue, then you're saying.
I definitely am not promoting that.
Lobby
Changes
first,
of-
and if no change is made, because it's a financial, it's ridiculous. I don't see why.
Well, so
Yes.
you have a clear definition, obvious, because since there is the male-female difference, the definition that you use for the survivor benefit is what? Common law,
Married.
Wife.
Wife, correct.
Yes,
Children.
wife is the word, and
Yes.
wife and husband,
Yeah.
right?
wife, husband,
Children.
and children.
And
common law.
incidentally, we have made an amendment to the legislation in regard to children, because we're making these changes a little at a
Incrementally.
time. Because, again, any change that we make that will increase payouts will affect the fund. So we have to do it responsibly, and we agree that they have to be done. But for children, we now have that children are up until the age of 18. We moved it from 16 to 18. And we included children of common law relationships now that are not necessarily the child of the deceased. So if you and I are in a relationship, and I brought a daughter into the relationship that is not yours, but you and I were living together in a common law relationship, and you pass away, my daughter, who is not your biological daughter, can now qualify for the benefit, survivor's benefit,
correct.
because she was a part of our family.
And for the survivor's benefit, is the responsibility on the survivor to
Make their claim.
ensure the documentation is intact?
Yes.
Correct.
I guess that would be a challenge, because if I'm with you 10 years, I don't necessarily know what you did the 20 years before that.
It's just filling out the paperwork.
Filling out the paperwork for the benefit.
For a
survivor's
deceased
benefit,
person?
yes.
Well, a lot of that we already have in our system.
Okay.
So it's not very onerous on the survivor
Okay.
to make that claim. What would qualify is the contributions, etc. So all the survivor would have to prove is that they were in this
Okay.
common law relationship and that this is my...
How long does it take to do the paperwork, and how long does it take before getting the payment?
For the retirement?
For example, the survivor's benefit.
Survivors takes 30 working days. Retirement takes 25 working days before you get paid.
Okay, payment.
So lessons learned from this conversation is one, check your contribution history.
Yes. Yes.
Ensure that your Social Security payments are going in. Secondly, quite honestly, don't plan on surviving on your Social Security pension alone. Perhaps have another plan in place. I mean, it's realistic, even at the maximum.
Because we don't
800.
hide what we pay. So you know what the maximum you can get, you know what is the minimum you can get.
Correct.
So if you can't live off that, then plan early. Don't wait until retirement.
Yeah.
You know, since you all are still in your 20s, you can start planning now.
I wish.
And we do know there is an expected, provided that people meet the average life expectancy, that there will be a larger population within the next few decades that will require pension.
Exactly, because the life expectancy at birth is different from the life expectancy at the age of 60. So at birth, the overall life expectancy is, I think, 74. However, if you reach the age of 60, it is now, the most recent studies have shown that women will live, I think, 21 or 24 more years, and men will live 19 years. You guys don't live as long.
They don't go to the doctor
I would
enough.
make
That's
any comment.
another
I would make any
conversation, right?
So it's important that if you have reached the age of 60, you know that it's quite possible that you will live another 15 or 20 years. And so that is what you have to plan for.
Can I ask this last question for me? Sorry.
As you know, we also have the program for self-employed. So if you're self-employed, you can register with Social Security and you qualify for all the benefits that the regular employee has.
So if you have your own business, and also if I know at one point there was a very heavy push for you reach out to domestic workers to ensure that they get their employers to sign them up.
Yes, because they would probably fall under the informal sector category, because a lot of times domestic workers employment is not always consistent.
Yeah.
And so they go from one employer to the next, and that is where a lot of the contributions are lost for some of these people, because the short-term relationship with the employer doesn't, they don't go and they don't check to see if the employer has been paying. A lot of employers that hire people for a short period of time tend to evade the...
We got to
We're
wrap up
taking
this
too long.
segment, and there's a lot that we'd love to get into, but thankfully we know that you guys are always willing to join us to talk more.
Anytime.
So thank you for coming in. And once again, if there's a question that you didn't get covered, remember you can access them on Facebook or go to the office and ask your questions there as well. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be focusing on Scouts Month. So stay tuned.